Maybe that's where I was going. Like, how do you stay not being a commodity?
Yeah,
right?
And honestly, I love the approach of the best patent is your brand. And I firmly believe that.
Mm-hmm.
When I was talking to Sarah Blakely, she was talking about Spanx.
Mm-hmm.
And so many companies tried to knock them off. Even Hanes launched a huge campaign, copied the exact same outfit she wore in the marketing campaigns, everything. And they did not sue one competitor because your brand is your patent.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think what we've done is we've built a brand around quality and education and science. And so even if on paper side by side, they look the same, people are going to choose us because what we stand for. And
Disney World, right?
100%.
Disney World.
100%. It could be the same ride.
Yeah.
But one's at a random theme park and one's at Disney.
Execution, trust, all of that stuff. Welcome to Well Coached, a podcast about how people, sales, profit, and self can transform your business. I'm your host, Chris Weinberg, and I have helped hundreds of entrepreneurs get into their highest productivity zone and become corporate enough to succeed. Let's get into today's episode. Hey guys, welcome back to the Well Coached podcast. We've got a great guest today, Mr. Todd Anderson. We're going to learn about his journey and talk a little bit about transferable skill sets, and we'll also dive into our typical lanes of people, sales, profit, self. Todd is a former NFL athlete, Michigan boy, who has now turned into a performance coach and the visionary behind Dream Recovery, which we'll get into, and we'll talk about that strip that's on his nose, which is attached to it. He is dedicated to transferring sleep into a powerful tool for better health and better performance. So we'll be able to dive heavily into the self part of what we're talking about today. He has started as a walk-on at Michigan State, earned his way up, landed in the NFL. So we'll talk about drive, motivation, sticking with it through tough times, all of that kind of stuff. And now he helps people optimize their own performance through fitness, nutrition, and that most notably powerful thing, sleep, which is so interesting because I'm Gen X. And so I grew up without any of this kind of knowledge.
Yeah, a little different mindset in Gen X.
It's a whole different mindset. After his career, delved into strength and conditioning, eventually collaborating with all kind of sleep experts like Dr. Jennifer Martin out at UCLA. This led to founding Dream Recovery. And Dream Recovery is offering science-backed products like Dream Tape Plus to promote optimal sleep, hygiene, and recovery. The hygiene I want to dive into big because I've tried those mouth guards and all that yucky stuff. So we're going to talk about all of his insights through our typical lenses of people, sales, profit, and self. So Todd, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, it's going to be good.
High expectations after that intro.
Well, I'm sure you'll knock it out of the park. We'll dive into the people section first a little bit. Your journey from being a walk-on at Michigan State all the way to the NFL, that's inspiring. So how did the people around you influence your path and passion for performance optimization?
Yeah, I mean, you know, it really started, honestly, the journey started when I was probably in middle school and I was an overweight kid.
Okay.
And that's when my passion for human performance really took off. And, you know, if I'm honest with myself, it really was more from an aesthetic side because, you know, I lacked confidence. I didn't even want to try out for basketball because they did shirts and skins for tryouts.
Okay.
I found out 15 years later, my mom actually went to the coach and asked if he could make sure I was on the shirts team during tryouts, which my mom's incredible. But I found the weight room early in sixth grade even, and starting making changes alongside that, you know, parallel, my sports performance started to get better and I just became obsessed with it. You know, this thing that was tangible that when I put more work into it, there was outcomes that were relatively predictable and I just loved it. And I loved the idea of learning. And, you know, I've always been a student. You know, my parents are both teachers. So you know, I think I love learning and, you know, learning something that was so impactful, something that could transform your day to day even. So that's when it started. And then, you know, I grew up a Michigan State fan. My dad went there. My dad was a huge football fan. And so much that he worked in the recruiting office. He would write letters for the football team. And so when I got the opportunity to potentially walk on, I thought I was going to go to a Division III school. I didn't even have a Division II offer.
Okay.
But I had this opportunity where I might have a walk-on spot, and I still have the chart. Me and my parents made this pros and cons chart between going to this Division III school that I was pretty set on in Michigan State. And there was an an equal amount of pros and cons, or basically each school had the same amount of pros.
Okay.
Except Michigan State had one more that was, will I regret this? Will I regret not trying?
Okay.
And so when I look back on that, that's kind of been something that's guided my entire life.
What a great statement for jumping into the entrepreneur world.
Yeah, 100%. And so anytime I have, big crossroads, for some reason, that question always pops up in my head. And I think when I look back when I'm 85 years old, the last thing I want is regrets. I think the goal in life is to have the fewest amount of regrets possible.
Right.
And so if the answer is that I would regret not trying, that's a good sign that I should do it.
So early on, we talk a lot on this show about grit and being a student of the game, and you were seeing cause effect very early from being a heavier kid to hopping in the weight room and seeing the cause and effect of that on the field, and that fueled your fire. So
100%.
Yeah, man,
I didn't recognize it. I didn't know it was happening, but that was 100% the process that was unfolding.
Yeah, and I'm sure once you building all that confidence along the way is able to give you the kahunas to jump out on your own in the business world.
Yeah. Yes and no. I think that those feelings that live with you for a long time.
Yeah.
There's a lot of psychology of when you're a kid, some foundational thought patterns and neural pathways are solidified. And it's still something I do work through, because I think the mountains keep getting higher. Right. So that feeling doesn't necessarily go away, but also I've become acclimated where I know that feeling is a North Star, meaning I'm on the right journey. Yeah. And I've almost become used to it, but it definitely has an exit in my life.
Yeah. We have a saying that people don't fall on top of mountains. So your analogy is right in our wheelhouse.
Yeah,
so thank you for that. Thank you for that direction and solidifying the your mountains probably keep getting taller because you keep achieving. You keep getting to the top of it. You got to go find the next one.
100%.
That's cool. When you transitioned from athlete to entrepreneur, did you have any key mentors or figures that help guide you through that?
Yeah, I as far as mentors go as an athlete, I don't know if I did have a mentor. I mean, my dad was a mentor in the sense of he was a football coach, he was a teacher, and my parents were amazing. They would, they're both teachers, so it's not like, we had access to every resource in the world. But if they thought that it would make me better and it was something I wanted to do and it was important, they would do everything in their power to make it happen. And looking back, I probably didn't realize how hard it probably was for some of that, but I never even knew.
Yeah.
And so they were amazing. So I'd say that. But, as of late, and we just actually announced today, Jesse Itzler and Sarah Blakely have come in as partners with Dream. And they have been, over the last 5 years, they've become amazing friends and now partners. And I would say, as far as a business mentor, I really look up to them in the way that they approach life and family and the balance. And
for those of us who don't know who that is, tell us about them a little bit.
Yeah.
And how did you get them attracted to you?
Yeah. So Jesse founded Marquis Jet. He has had a few exits, Zico Coconut Water, 29 but he now has the Big Ass Calendar, which is kind of a way to plan your life out. And he wrote Living with the Seal, which is about him bringing David Goggins in. And really, that's how David Goggins started.
Got his launch, right?
But, I mean, the biggest thing with Jesse is he's incredible. He's an incredible storyteller. He's an incredible human. And he gets everything possible out of life. And that's really what I look up to him the most. And he's grown a lot in popularity, but it's just amazing what he's done and how he's done it. I think he's a super special guy. And then Sarah Blakely, obviously, she's founded Spanx, which she had a pretty substantial exit last year. Yeah. And but they're just pretty amazing people. And honestly, it was so cool to see when we got to know them. A couple with insane success, but also an equal grounding in life. Incredible parents, just high levels of integrity. Yeah, I think sometimes, at least I did, I had this idea of it was an either or situation. You can be an amazing person, help people, do things for the greater good, or you can be a business person, and you have to pick between the two. And then I think that's why, when I say who's my mentor in that side of things, they have both. Right. And I don't know if I fully believed that was possible until I saw it firsthand.
So they've got that people, self, profit, self mission,
all of it
under control. That's and another good point. Those things don't have to be mutually exclusive of each other. Profit and good community involvement or whatever it is that you're trying to do.
100%.
How did they decide to come beside you?
Yeah, so
because they got lots of choices.
Yeah, we were friends first. So my wife was writing a book, and I had seen Jesse speak and I read his book, and she was figuring out, how do I market this? And I was like, reach out to Jesse. And this is before, well, one, I mean, my wife's a 2-time Olympian, so she's not just a random person reaching out. And then Jesse was, Instagram was just, it wasn't like it was today. It was easier to get in touch with people, especially like the verification back in the day was a little different. So if you were both verified, it became easy to get a hold of each other. But he ended up inviting us out maybe 5 years ago to his place in Connecticut to talk about it, because my wife was like, he was helping her a ton. He immediately FaceTimed her, wanted to help. This is the kind of guy he is.
Right.
And respected what she had done in her sport a lot. And so she was like, well, you're helping me so much. Let me give you a swim lesson, because she's a swimmer. And so we went out to Connecticut, and I always joke around that the sauna has changed my life. It truly has. And it could be the singular most impactful thing in my entire life, because I have met more people, and 90% of my community and friend group, the sauna has been involved in the first few meetings.
Wow.
And so when I went out to visit him, this was before sauna was a big deal. Now it's booming, but this is a while ago. I happened to be in the sauna. I used to even like the sauna when I was a kid. My dad was a wrestling coach, so I would, the guys would be cutting weight. They weren't supposed to, but they'd be in the sauna, and I would jump in, and I always continued to be into it. And he loved it, and so he asked me, "You want to go in the sauna?" We ended up hitting it off, and actually stayed the entire weekend. And just from the get-go, we had a lot in common, and it all started with that. And so became friends, and as time grew, we started doing things together and became close. And every year we have this group of friends, and we do a masogi, in which masogi is like it's Jesse's kind of coined it, and he uses it in his big ass calendar. But you pick one thing a year that's like a year defining either event, accomplishment. Could be run a marathon, it could be a trip, start a business, but you pick one thing that's going to define a year. And so we've been doing these every year together. So 2 years ago, this year we went to Finland. We did 25 saunas in 7 days. Wow. Which is, again, I bring back the sauna, but last year we did rim to rim to rim, which is one side of the Grand Canyon, across, up, back, down. I almost died. It was one of the hardest things I've done, 20 hours, 45 miles. But on that trip, I brought out the prototypes for the nasal strips. Okay. And everybody tried them, and everyone was like blown away. Wow. And he called me after that, because I would never probably approach him. Just being friends, it's, I don't want to cross that barrier. And also they've kind of had their success, and they're not looking to get involved in that many things. And so he called me and was like blown away. And he's like, I want to get involved in this. How can we help? And, and the timing kind of landed perfectly, where we were debating raising some funds just for manufacturing and some innovation. And it worked. Kind of a perfect harmony.
Another great lesson there, guys. While looking after yourself and the sauna or your health, you never know who you're going to meet, join with. No. Like-minded people tend to find their ways toward each other. And then the two don't have to be, one can lead to the other, right? 100%. The great self-care can certainly lead to business success.
100%. And that's why the sauna has been so impactful, is because if you think about, like, so if I have a meeting in Nashville, or if I'm like someone wants to meet me or a new group of friends, I'll either ask them to come, let's come sauna together, or let's go do a run walk. Okay. And I think it becomes an instant filter for the type of people that I want to spend my life with. Right. People are willing to try something new. They're wellness oriented. They're taking care of themselves. They don't mind being uncomfortable. And I think through that filter, I've met some amazing people. Yeah. And then the other piece is, when you're in a sauna, this is probably why Finland's the happiest country in the world, is there's no phones, there's no distractions, there's a little bit of adversity. And so some of the conversations you have, you meet someone 10 minutes into the session, you're talking about some really deep, vulnerable things just because of the situation. Right. So I joke about it, but when you actually break it down from a relationship perspective and getting to know people and what really drives meaningful relationships, it checks a lot of the boxes. Right. And so a lot of things have stemmed from that. It's been fun. You're building your own tribe around you. 100%. Your law of attraction. You've got a magnet. You've got a magnet for people right. In my backyard is we have 2 saunas. We have 3 cold plunges. We have a really cool, it's set up to have people there and build community intentionally. And I'm not inviting anybody, but I just love when people are over. I love it.
Yeah.
Just love having friends around, and that's kind of what I live for.
That's awesome. You used to do marathons?
I still technically do. I'm actually doing 29.029 in June with Jesse. That's you climb the height of Mount Everest.
Okay.
It's up a ski hill. So that's how long is that? That's it's pretty far, but comparable to a marathon.
Wow.
So I've done a few marathons.
Yeah.
I used to be an absolutely horrible runner.
Yeah.
Hated it. In football, it was like punishment.
Yeah.
But running it's been kind of
therapeutic.
It's been life-changing.
Yeah.
From a business perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Business and life. I'll take a ton of calls when I'm running.
Okay.
So I feel like I'm really efficient. I'm doing something to better even if it's something, how there's always some calls that maybe you feel are not, I don't want to say a bad use of time, but they have to be done, or you feel like it's not the best use of your time. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes when I double up, it's great. It also holds me accountable because I have to be in good enough shape that I can go on a run and nobody knows that I'm on a run.
Right.
And then the other thing I do is if I don't have that, then I call my parents every single day on the run.
Okay.
And
amazing.
Like I think having a good relationship with your parents, like without that, I don't know where I would be. So
that's fantastic. Super efficient for sure.
Yeah. Even Jade, who's my chief of staff, our first meeting, I was like, hey, let's meet. And I was like, actually, bring your running clothes. Let's go on a run. Awesome. And she hung for 10 miles. And she was and she's been incredible.
Once again, man, you've got a great filter for who you're putting around you.
Yeah.
And in my younger days, I used to run marathons. I've done 27 and
27.
Yeah, man, that was my therapy and the whole 9 yards. And I think it translates right to business. I think
100%
endurance, grit, not giving up,
100%,
collecting the right kind of tribe.
I also don't even listen to music.
I don't either. I never did. No headphones, no music. I didn't want any of that.
I used to, but then I just love being kind of with my thoughts. I do listen to music if I'm like training for a marathon and trying to hit a pace and it's really rough.
Yeah.
Like it's a hard run. I'll save it to maybe like where I'm working so hard I can't think. But in general, I just like to kind of space out and I think I've had some of my best ideas.
That's right.
I've had a lot of bad ideas, but I've had some of my good ideas out there too.
That's awesome. Well, good. Are you ready to elevate your business and leadership game? If you're serious about taking your success to the next level, then it's time to focus on the 4 pillars that every thriving business is built on: people, sales, profit, and self. You've heard me talk a lot about those 4 pillars in every episode of this podcast. Now's your chance to deep dive with me in person into actionable strategies that will transform your approach to business and leadership. Whether you're looking to build high-performing teams, drive sales, control cost, or enhance your own leadership mindset, you'll get the tools to make all of this happen. And this is not just theory, it's about real impact, the kind that leads to big wins, big profit, and a healthier approach to work in life. And it's all happening live with me at the Nashville City Club beginning August the 5th, right in the heart of Music City, where business meets creativity. But here's the catch. This mastermind is exclusive and there's limited space. So if you're ready to take control of your business and leadership future, now's your chance to secure your spot. To register, go to wellcoachconsulting.com, where you'll learn how to build thriving teams, drive profit, and most importantly, elevate yourself. What about, let's talk about sales a little bit. So you guys have carved this niche in the wellness market. What strategies have you employed to effectively communicate the importance of sleep to potential customers? Because specifically, like my generation, we didn't pay any attention to this stuff until now. Like now, 100%. I feel like we're trying to catch up.
Yep. And so it kind of I think our approach naturally progressed because I was speaking on sleep primarily for about 5 years.
Okay.
And so we're an education first company, and we've had to be that way for exactly what you're saying is, now the trend is picking up to where there's other resources that are helping the journey along and people are being educated on the importance of sleep. But for a long time, I was just putting out tons and tons of educational information about sleep, prioritizing sleep, and how it'll have a profound impact on your life. And so we were used to being the tip of that spear from an education perspective. And with our products, up until the nasal strips, with our products, we've had to do a ton of education. And every marketing company, the first thing they'll tell you not to do is pick a product that is heavy on the education side, because it's hard. It's hard to get eyeballs and hold people's attention. But on the flip side, I think what that's done is build a ton of trust. And I think, using trust over tactics is a really great approach to sales, because yes, there's hooks in these different strategies to get people to pay attention, but if they don't trust you, it's not going to matter. So I think naturally we've been education first, harped on the mission of helping people feel as good as possible through the lens of sleep. And with that trust, we're able to really develop a nice sales pipeline, because people believe if we're going to develop a product, we've done the research, there's science behind it, and all we're trying to do is help people feel as good as possible. And I don't think we could, do a clickbait approach to our products.
Okay. Yeah, when I was getting ready for this, I was thinking, how do you educate? Because to your point, lots of people don't even want to be educated or start getting
100%.
turned off by that. And so you've got a lot of information to give. And how do you do that without overwhelming people with too much technical stuff?
It's not easy. And I mean, I think part of it too is we felt the trends in the wellness space. I have tons of friends and founders. I live and breathe that space, and I have for a long time. So I think we had a pretty good pulse on it. And so we also knew there was this wave of information coming based on the studies coming out, the focus, the longevity focus in general, knowing like where sleep played a role there. And so we it was strategic in the sense of we knew we were going to have support foundationally just from primary news outlets of the importance of sleep. So I think the timing played a big role, and that was a part of it.
Okay.
But I think we've really had to. I mean, the good thing is with digital marketing, though, you're really able to refine your messaging with the data. The data. I think you can get in the weeds with the data, and there's pros and cons with it. But the one thing it does do is allow you to understand what people are willing to listen to, and what messages people will hold people's attention, and where to direct your attention.
What have in educating folks and presenting your products, what have been some of the biggest challenges competing, and how do you overcome them?
The biggest, from an education perspective, the biggest challenge,
or getting that, and a customer choosing you versus the next thing that they're seeing out there.
I mean, the biggest challenge is our products aren't, on paper, they're not mind-blowing, right? You have different shapes of tape. We have nasal strips, sleep masks. Things have been around for a long time. So explaining why they should care and how they're differentiating the products has been difficult, because all of a sudden a bunch of people are spending money on sleep. Well, as soon as that happens, people try to come in and money grab and use all these like tactical marketing, different strategies and pick up the low hanging fruit of price wise. They'll charge nothing, but
sink it to the bottom.
Yeah,
right?
It's like the worst products.
Yeah, maybe that's where I was going. Like, how do you stay not being a commodity?
Yeah, and honestly, I love the approach of the best patent is your brand. And I firmly believe that. When I was talking to Sarah Blakely, she was talking about Spanx, and so many companies tried to knock them off. Even Hanes launched a huge campaign, copied the exact same outfit she wore in the marketing campaigns, everything. And they did not sue one competitor, because your brand is your patent. And so I think what we've done is we've built a brand around quality and education and science. And so even if on paper, side by side, they look the same, people are going to choose us because what we stand for. And
Disney World, right?
100%.
Disney World.
100%. It could be the same ride.
Yeah.
But one's at a random theme park and one's at Disney.
Execution, trust, all of that stuff.
And I think brand gets thrown around a lot, but I don't think people realize the moat it creates around products. Think about t-shirts or clothing, apparel. It's like if you have them side by side, Lululemon leggings, and they're the exact same product, you've built trust with Lululemon. They know they've vetted the product and they've done it the right way. And so I think sometimes brand is one of those things that it's hard to equate value to. And I think people like to throw it around and it's a trendy word and talk about brand building, but it is incredible when you do it the right way. And it really is the only way to protect your products, because a lot of times it's not worth it to take legal action. And so that's been our entire approach.
And your competitors know that, right?
100%. Yeah. Oh, so I mean, to give you an example, we went to Finland.
Okay.
And these nasal strips have not been out in the world at all. And we posted one Instagram story as we were leaving. And we set up we have manufacturers set up that are like just front manufacturers, so it funnels to our manufacturing. If someone's trying to make a nasal strip knockoff, that Instagram story was screenshotted and sent within 3 hours of the first story to try to get mass production made on it.
Wow.
Which is insane.
Wow.
It is crazy. So that's what I mean by, if there's just that level of appetite and aggressiveness towards copying these like trendy products, then if you don't have a brand and people don't know what you stand for and don't understand the community that you're trying to involve, I mean, why would they buy us over this knockoff?
You have a new product on your nose today.
I do, yes.
Tell us about it.
This is called Second Wind. And it's a nasal strip, but what's cool is Breathe Right was around for 30 years. They're the gold standard, and they've done an incredible job, but no one's really innovated. And so there's a lot of like versions of that we could have just rebranded, and that's what there's a lot of companies doing that, but we decided, let's do this the right way. And we worked with some Ivy League engineers, and we tested out 50 prototypes, 3D printing, 3D renderings, and really tried to optimize the physics and the dilation of the nostril. And it's been 17 months, and they came out today.
Wow!
So we're super excited. Thanks. It's been a journey. We thought it was going to be. We had the.
We're part of the launch day.
Yeah, 100%. It's the first thing I did today. Awesome. Besides call my partners and talk to Jesse and stuff. And,
awesome.
But it's been fun because we planned on launching literally July of last year, so almost a year delay. But we've been tweaking this, tweaking that, changing things, and I think obsessing about the product is powerful. And so when there was something we could make a little bit better, we were like, let's hold off and do it the right way. And so we're finally here.
Congrats!
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a really fun. It's been a long experience, but it's been really great. And excited where it could go, because we've had the hardest products to market, right?
Yeah.
Like you really can't have a harder product to market. You have something that you can't talk when you're wearing it, and you wear it to sleep. It's about as hard as it gets. And so this is actually something that's a little easier, and people are aware of, and they understand it a little bit more. Still a lot of education, but a better starting spot.
A lot of lessons there for us guys out there listening. He's talking about innovation. You can't sit still, right?
No.
'Cause somebody's coming after you. As soon as you have any kind of success,
100%.
Somebody's coming after you. So you got to keep innovating for sure, and then protecting your brand and your name or who you are. I mean, that at the end of the day, people want to do business with people they like and trust.
100%. I love the quote Sarah always says, it start small, think big, and scale fast. And I think that's been our approach. We bootstrapped this whole thing, so we had to be gritty, start small, figure out what worked at a really granular level and what wasn't going to waste money. And then, if we're going to change, and then we thought, think big. If we're going to change the landscape of the wellness space, but particularly the breathing and sleep space, what would that take? And then now that we have the products, we've really hit the gas, and it's been a pretty amazing trajectory using that model. I also think it builds a business in a really, in 2025. 5 years ago, like some of these exits, it was just top line revenue, and it was so trendy to raise a bunch of money, and who cares how profitable you are? And I think because we were bootstrapping it actually forced us into the type of profitability and company that's really appealing right now for big PE firms and exits, which I don't think we necessarily planned it that way, but it's nice because you really feel that shift happening right now to profitability focus.
Right. Yeah. It's amazing that it wasn't that way.
I mean,
It's crazy.
Coming from before I got into the business side of things when I was like early 20s, I just thought that's what business was. I thought that was the only way you made money was what was left over.
Right.
And then when I started getting into the business space, it was on the other end of the spectrum where people were raising, it was almost a badge of honor of not how much, not your EBITDA or not how much money you're pulling out of the business, of how much money you could raise.
Right.
And I was always like, well, like they're taking equity for, how is that the main focus?
Yeah.
And you'd see article after article about, these raises, which I understand, but it seemed like people were more focused on the elements of the business and not actually the health of the business. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah. And so I think it's refreshing because if I were going to, acquire a business, that's the first thing I would want to look at. So
good for y'all. When you've, how do you approach the pricing to your products to reflect value, but also remaining accessible. The value of the product, which is a lift over your competitors, but also keeping it accessible. What's your pricing strategy?
That's a great question. I mean, with pricing, we want to be, I would say our company just in general is premium, but we don't want to be luxury. Okay. That's kind of where we want to sit, where we want to have the highest quality stuff. We don't cut corners with anything that's touching your skin or face or any materials. And we kind of let that dictate our pricing. You know, we want as fair margins as we can have that make sense from a business perspective. I don't think we would ever try to inflate the price for perceived value. I think we try to price it at what the value of the product is, as opposed to what we think we can get out of it. But that being said, you know, that pricing psychology is so interesting. You know, I talked to a lot of different companies, and us included, there's been a few times where we've changed some things, innovated, or even came with a new product that was a similar product but slightly different. Like the Dream Tape Plus has collagen and vitamins, anti-aging formula in it. Okay. And weirdly enough, you know, price increases sometimes actually convert at a higher level, which is very strange.
How about that?
And we'll do A/B testing on the stuff, but I've seen some other companies in different spaces, wellness space, but still different types of products, where they'll test price increases, A/B test them, and there's not really any changes, and the higher price will convert at a higher level, which is so interesting. But I think price sometimes, as a consumer, I think it is almost like a vetting system for a premium or high quality product.
Yes.
And it's interesting how that works, but you know, then I put myself in the consumer seat and I think about cold plunges, for example. There's a cold plunge company we work with, and they're priced extremely well. And they're probably the best made cold plunge, but they own the manufacturing facility, so they're able to charge substantially less because they're not, you know, their margins make more sense without having to produce it somewhere else. And then I think about it, and I'm like, if I was a consumer and went out and saw the price, I would think, what's wrong with it? Because it's so well priced. And so, you know, I don't know, the psychology of that is so interesting. 100%, because I
work with a lot of my clients where I'm like, they'll be so nervous to take the price increase, but their value is clearly there. I'm like, people are going to trust you more. I mean, yeah. Yeah.
And a good example in our business with that is we have Dream strips, which are a small vertical stretchy strip, and they were hard to design. We had to buy some specialized equipment, and they're unique. No one else has anything like that. And then we have our regular tape, and the regular tape is the big rectangle. You know, doesn't seem like that big of a difference. The smaller one is a lot less material, so on paper it costs less to make, but you could argue it's more valuable because everything that went into it, and also the experience. It's a unique method, it's a unique shape, and so we price to what the value is. Okay. And so those cost the same amount, even though, you know, material wise it might be a little less. Well, the impact for somebody is the same, if not greater. Okay. So we keep them at the same pricing. So I think you know, going towards the value as opposed to just strictly margins and values based on how much it costs to manufacture.
Let's transition to self a little bit. You've had this remarkable transformation from athlete to sleep advocate and entrepreneur. What internal shifts did you experience along that transition? You know, and let me sharpen that question a little bit. Yeah. One thing I love about working with ex-athletes and athletes, you guys are so used to being coached. Like you're so used to regimen and being coached. 100%. And sometimes taking that quantum leap to, now I'm an entrepreneur. Yeah. Talk to me about that transition a little bit.
And it's scary because I think as an athlete, you're in systems your whole life. There's always plans, and you're not really having to carve out a system. Even, you know, I work with a company called PAC that's a professional athletes community.
I'm speaking to them when they come.
Oh, I'll be there too.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
You know Vince Beagle?
Yeah.
Very good friend.
That's amazing. Vince is a great guy.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. And so, but I think even like when you leave a sport, just your day-to-day schedule, you know, you've never really had to do that. You've never had to set up something where you have a goal and you have to set up, okay, what's the best use of my time? Up until that, you had your lift at 6, you had your meal at 7, you know, everything was regimented. So I think that was hard. But on the flip side, I think a lot of athletes make great entrepreneurs because of having an end goal that's far down the road, that's tangible, that you're excited about, that you can pour your energy into. Like yesterday, before launch day, I was talking to my wife and I'm like, it feels like I have a football game tomorrow.
Yeah.
In the best way.
Right.
And I think sometimes athletes feel like once they experience those highs of their sport, they're not going to experience that again. I think there's a lot of people get very depressed when they start to realize, a couple of years after they're done, the day-to-day, it's very hard to match that. But when you pour your heart and soul into something that takes so much work, so much time, so many moving parts, you can get that same feeling.
Okay, so back to it. Let's talk to me about back to the athletes. When you come out, you're right. So many of you can be like, lost, now what? But the beauty of organizations like PAC and you as a testament and some others is you've got this remarkable transferable skill set. You just need to know that. And you just need to believe in that you're used to grind. You're used to going after hard things. You're used to going through tough seasons, no pun intended, and what the grind looks like to come out of that. So to your point, some companies are brilliant at hiring ex-athletes like Enterprise Rent-A-Car or whatever.
Striker.
You're just used to the grind and being coached and being in a system, being on a team, hard days, tough days, all that kind of stuff. And you've been able to make that transition.
I think for me, though, and I think some athletes do struggle with this, is yes, they're conditioned to grind and they can work and they're great. Usually they're great teammates. But the piece that I struggled with was, I think with Michigan State, my lifelong goal was to play there. It wasn't even a lifelong goal because it seemed so far out of the realm of possibilities, but I was so motivated to play that I was able to overcome a ton. Like the amount of grit, like I actually, looking back, I don't know how I did it because it was so hard and so mentally challenging. But I think that was the piece for me that was hard, is it took a while to find that end goal that was important enough to me that I was able to be gritty in the same sense as when I played, because if it doesn't matter, I think it's hard for an athlete to turn that on. I don't think they can they're used to such high mountains that I think if they just go and get a job that they're not inspired or they're just, doing a 9 to 5 that they're not really looking forward to, that they don't see a big end goal, I think it can almost go the other direction. And I think, so I think, looking in the mirror and really understanding what makes you tick and understanding what drives you, what's important to you, and then directing your life in that direction. I think there's a lot of self-exploration to be had by athletes afterwards, because for your entire life, it's probably just been that sport. And if you're at an extremely high level, that's the only way it can be.
Right.
People talk about, you got to start thinking about life after sport.
You don't have time for that.
It's like my wife thought about swimming in the Olympics since the time she was 9 years old.
Right.
And the reason she swam in the Olympics is because that's all she thought about. If she was thinking about plan B, plan A would have never happened. So I hate when people say that. I do like the idea of figuring out things you like and exploring things, but you can't have a plan B when you're going for extreme success. It's just not how it's going to be.
Like, and that translates right to business as well.
Right. If I'm sitting here thinking about dream, but yet, well, if this doesn't work out, how would I transition? Immediately that's going to change my focus, change the way I approach things. Yeah. And so, that's, for better or for worse, the all-in mentality served me pretty well.
Well, and that's what I see with athletes too that I've coached in the past, is like believing that and knowing, because to your point, I've seen a lot of you guys just get depressed as soon as that day's over.
I've had some bad days for sure.
Yeah, man. And well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about a little bit the setback. What have been the biggest setbacks, maybe in business or athleticism, whatever you choose, or burnout, and how did you work your way through it?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest setback, well, in the sports world, I got hurt multiple years, but nothing. I mean, at the end of the day, the people around me, the people I care about, I mean, that's the only way I've gotten through anything. But there was a time after playing not that long ago where, the fitness thing was up in the air, COVID was happening. I was thinking about changing fields. I dabbled around in medical device stuff, and I was absolutely miserable. I could not have been more uninspired.
Okay.
And so, I leaned on my wife, and luckily, she was in a situation where she allowed me just to to stop what I was doing and take a little time to figure out, okay, what really inspires you? And I was still doing the speaking on sleep, and I've always come back to that.
Okay.
And so I think a lot of times, we're not able to be vulnerable, and we don't ask for, I mean, as a guy especially, don't ask for help, but, I was in a bad spot, and I really, leaned on her shoulder, and she, that's why I think having the right people around you, especially as a partner, is the most important decision you can make.
Okay, let's stop there. Guys, you hear what this guy's saying. Choose your partners carefully.
100%.
Because they are either going to support you and lift you up and be there or drag you down. Yeah. It's usually never in the middle. It's one way or the other. You've either got a champion by your side or someone that is accidentally jealous of you or just mad at you that you're working hard or whatever, all kinds of stuff. And choosing you got lucky.
I did, but it's been.
Was it safe to say you married up?
100%. I'll text my coverage for sure.
Yeah, man, you got a grinder who knows what hard will. She wants you to go succeed.
100%, and it's almost like a three-legged race where in a three-legged race, sometimes one person's in the lead pulling the other along, and then it flip-flops because there's been times where it's been the other way.
Yeah,
and in the beginning of our relationship, that's how it was. She, her swimming career ended. She had a pulmonary embolism. There's a lot of adversity, but if I didn't have her, I mean, who knows where I would have been. I can't even like imagine where my life would be. Probably not in a great spot, to be honest with you.
So rainy days are going to come to everybody, right? You got 100%. All this, you're rocking and rolling now. You got it kicking butt. But to the listeners out there, tough days come to everybody.
For sure.
Right?
But I think if you have the friends and family around you and people that you really love and care about, you can build a roof anywhere you're at, for sure.
Amazing. What are the? We'll start wrapping it up. I hear the big three are sleep, diet, and exercise. Is that right?
I mean,
is there an order to that or not?
It's really hard to not. The way I think about it, and I always have is you have, let's say you have exercise, nutrition, hydration, all these elements of wellness, but sleep is really the foundation. It's the only time our body resets, only time our brain physically resets and gets rid of all the buildup and proteins that are produced throughout the day, and it is the only thing that will tear the others apart.
Okay,
right? It's something that, and it's the most universal. Meaning, there's a lot of different ways to eat. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of different ways to exercise that are effective. Sleep is pretty straightforward.
Okay, and
everybody needs it, and everybody needs about the same amount of it.
What is it? How much do we need?
So the minimum, the absolute minimum is 7 hours.
Okay.
But it's most people are closer to 8 hours.
Okay.
But as soon as I say 7 hours, everyone's like, how do I get 7 hours? But it's like, no, that's the minimum.
Okay.
We don't want to shoot for the end, right? In business, you're never shooting for the low amount. Right. You want to be right in the middle. But
is 8 what to shoot for, or should it be higher than that?
For sure. Eight's usually right in the middle of people's ideal or optimal amount of sleep. But I think what sleep comes down to, and I think this applies to business, is for me personally, and I think for most people out there, well, the rise and grind culture was very popular. And it was this sleep when you're dead. How do I work the most hours, get the most done? But I think life is about having the best hours.
Okay.
Like, who cares if you have 20 hours a day? Give me the best 16 hours, the most productive, the happiest, the most connected 16 hours. And I'll take that any day of the week over 20 hours of average.
Yeah.
And I think that
it's such a mind shift from my generation.
I know.
Because we were told sleep is for the weak.
Yeah.
Sleep when you're dead.
But what's cool is, and this is probably why I'm personally so motivated with Dream, is some of the messages we get are incredible about people who have not prioritized sleep like you're talking about, really bought into it. Usually, we'll get the message because one of our products kind of pushed them in the right direction. But when they start prioritizing sleep, their entire life changes, from being a parent to being a friend to an athlete to their business. Like, they go from literally living, just existing, to living the best hours they could. And once people experience that, there's no going back. And I think that slowly, the population is changing.
Oh, I'm a convert for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. My wife forced me to, but and I'm thankful for that.
How do you feel?
Amazing. But at the time when I wasn't sleeping, I never felt tired. I didn't feel off, but I will tell you, I'm much more optimized now.
Yeah. So what's interesting when you're underslept is what happens, I've done a lot of studies on this. And when people are underslept, they do all these tests, reaction time, memory, all these cognitive tests. And when you're chronically underslept, you continue to do worse and worse at these tests.
Okay.
Like your function drops, but your awareness of your performance does not. So you start thinking you're doing better and better the more chronically you're underslept. So your perception actually gets thrown off. You're kind of living in a false reality when you think you're performing really well, but your performance is actually falling off from a cognitive perspective. And some people, are sitting there in the business world thinking, well, does that really matter? If I don't have reaction time. But what those also apply to are subconscious reactions, meaning your facial recognition, your ability to read someone's emotion, your ability to actually convey emotion.
So your EQ.
Yeah, all of it.
Your
all
emotional
of that,
intelligence
it's immediately
is
impacted by sleep. And so when I think about leadership, I mean, being a great communicator is probably the number one role or number one trait of a leader.
Absolutely.
That is immediately impacted by being underslept. And there's no way to out-tough it. That's happening without you even understanding what's going on. Those are reactionary outputs by your brain. So when you're underslept, you are a worse leader, you're a worse communicator than if you're sleeping 8 hours a night. And they actually did an amazing study in Europe with CEOs. And there's a direct correlation between the number of hours a CEO gets and the amount of trust felt throughout the entire organization.
Wow.
The more hours a CEO got of sleep, the more trust felt throughout the organization. And
I need to find that and read it.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
Yeah. I don't know if it's published yet, but
it's powerful.
They're closing it up. Yeah.
How do people find you? Where do we go to learn about you and what you're up to and all that stuff? Most of
my content I put on is on Instagram. It's just Todd Anderson.
Todd Anderson.
But then Dream Recovery is our website. But yeah, I mean, even on Instagram, if anybody has any questions, I'd love to help and shoot me a message and I get through them and that's why I'm here. I love helping people feel better. So
amazing. People, sales, profit, self, guys. And you look at how he's focused a ton in this industry with the self part of sleeping well and being fit. And look how that has transformed his life. I mean, you got the people side, you're surrounded with great mentors, a great spouse, great family support network, great partners. The sales part, you got new products, you're consciously innovating and doing new things. The profit side, you're making money at what you're doing and then taking care of the family and yourself at the same time. So you've been an awesome guest.
Yeah, it's been a great conversation.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming.
I'll see you in the sauna soon.
Yeah, heck yeah. and at PAC.
Yeah, 100%.
Guys, thanks for paying attention today. If you liked it, go tell the world about it. If you didn't like it, don't tell anybody. And subscribe on all your normal podcast platforms, and we'll see you next time. Well, guys, that's a wrap for today. We thank you a ton for listening and looking forward to the next episode where we'll continue this journey on how becoming corporate enough can put you in your highest productivity zone to create a successful, profitable, and purpose-driven business for you.